Welcome to the S.O.S Veteran Educational Resources Spotlight. Remember, don't drown in the sea of transition. Grab the S.O.S Lifeline. S.O.S is brought to you by the Who You Know Network, and we are proud members. Here we go.
It's just one of those mornings.
Yep. See, I'm trying not to look at the script because I say this every time. I should know this, right? But if I don't look at the script, I start getting tongue-tied. Brought to you by the Who You Know Network and proud members of the Parade Day community. As always, I'm here with Dr. Hira. How are you doing today, Dr. Hira?
I'm doing very well. I'm excited to get to talk more about Kent State. I had the pleasure of visiting that campus. Oh golly, maybe like 7 years ago. I went out there to do a presentation, and it was a really wonderful space. I actually got to see the vet center, so I'm excited for our community to get to learn more about it.
Coming in with insider knowledge. There you go. My only experience with Kent State, and I think I told Joshua this when we talked, was my high school basketball coach my senior year played at Kent State back in 1940 something. Yeah, great. So we're sitting down with Joshua Ryder, Executive Director for the Center for Adult and Veteran Services at Kent State University. Joshua was a two-time graduate at Kent State University, receiving both bachelor's and master's degrees. During his time at Kent State, Joshua has served as a graduate assistant in resident services, a financial aid counselor, VA certified official, and as the chief administrator in a unit dedicated to serving adults, parenting, and military-connected students at KSU through benefits processing and student engagement. His work includes assessment and fundraising strategies for the population, as well as creating programs, initiatives, events, and services. Personally, he is the father of a daughter who is soon to be a college freshman at Kent State, a fourth-generation Golden Flash. That's cool. That's nice. A very neat legacy. How are you doing today, Joshua?
I am doing fantastic. How are you both?
Great.
Another wonderful day.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks for having me on.
Glad to have you. All right. So, want to know about, how did you get into working in higher ed? Was this some calling that you always thought you had? What was that pathway like? And then what ultimately led you to working with veterans?
Yeah. I think thanks. A great question, because it helps me reflect on it, right? Because sometimes I forget myself. It's been, again, a lot of years, like kind of like that high school, that basketball coach thing. It's been some time, right? It's been some time. But yeah, so I started out as an undergraduate student at Kent State, again, quite a few years ago in the mid 90s. And I started working on campus, right? And then so that was my job I had, worked 25 hours a week on campus, went to classes, graduated, never thought a thing about it, went and worked in the private sector and in retail management and I got a history degree here, but the history factory wasn't hiring when I got out. So I, so I ended up, doing retail tire and service and a number of different things like that. And then found myself coming back doing some searching, right? Thinking like, how long do I want to do this? How long do I want to do this work? And then realizing there were people that worked at universities, right? And then connecting with some of those folks that were my supervisors back then, and then having them tell me about this master's degree program, the Higher Education Administration and Student Personnel. I came back, did that for 2 years, and I was a graduate assistant in resident services, lived on campus, which is not my calling. That is not my calling. That's not me. But hey, it paid the bills, right? I mean, it covered it, and I'm forever grateful to them for doing that. And then I went, I got hired by federal financial aid, which was an area of interest of mine. But like fate, though, instead of a letter group, I got assigned veterans and the GI Bill. And so that was me. And, we're talking 2006. So it's a pretty simple GI Bill, right? It was pretty simple. You showed up, you got paid monthly. That was it. The VRE numbers were way small. Dependent numbers were not that big. I mean, I had 250 students, even at an institution this size, at the Kent campus. It was small. And then the post 9/11 GI Bill rolled around and our numbers quadrupled.
Yeah.
Quadrupled. Transferability, all those things did it. We had a vice president at the time, an assistant vice president who was an infantry veteran, Army infantry veteran, Dr. David Garcia, who said, hey, let's combine the benefits processing with the adult student center, which was doing some of those soft services, right? Like engagement and programs and things like that weren't processing benefits. So they combined us. I came over there, and then eventually the director there left, and I've transitioned, on into different roles at the institution. I've been at the Center for Adult Veteran Services since it opened on, 1 January 2010. So 15 years, just a couple weeks ago. Yeah. So that's my journey. And then here I sit.
All right. Fantastic. So you mentioned about the size of Kent State. So how big is Kent State? And then what's the military and military affiliated population look like?
Yeah, so we have about 28,000 students on campus, grad and undergrad. And then we also process, we handle all the regional campus students as well. We have an 8 regional campus footprint that covers really all of Northeast Ohio. So we process the benefits for those folks as well, about another 10,000 students there. Look about 38,000 in the Kent system. So it's a large public tier 1 research institution. We have about 1,000 military connected students at any one point in time. Now, not all those are using benefits. Of course, some of those they've exhausted benefits, but they're still eligible for other services that we have. We're processing about 800 beneficiaries at a given time, and probably about 1,100, 1,200 unique beneficiaries in a calendar year, like an academic year. Yeah.
That's fascinating, Dr. Hira. It's such a wide reach within Ohio too, and like I said, I didn't know much about Kent State when Joshua and I first talked, and I was fascinated by this because all I knew is my old high school coach played ball there, way back when, and just thought it was some little school. It was great to hear how big it is and what they're doing.
Yeah. And the services then, in terms of what that support looks like, obviously you have your main flagship, you have your additional campuses. Does everyone, if they want the vet services, have to go to that main flagship, or what does that look like in terms of engagement for the veterans and military community?
It's a great question. So the benefits processing is centralized, right? It's easier to have, fewer cooks in the kitchen, and just you don't have 9 different hands in it, which is confusing. As you can imagine, that can get pretty bad. But luckily, it always worked out here, but we've kind of streamlined it. So what it works at, you reach out to us online. If you're at a regional campus, we have a completely online portal that veterans and service members, dependents can reach out to us and process benefits. So they never need to journey here, right? But we leave the individual campuses that are able to access funds that we have set aside, like our funds, right, for processing benefits, set aside to help them do their own individual veterans programming and services that they want to do, because those populations differ. I mean, You're talking about rural populations, you're talking about urban populations in those regionals, you're talking about suburban populations. I don't know what those programmatic models look like. Yeah. Our campuses range all the way from the foothills of the Appalachia Mountains all the way to Lake Erie. Yeah. So those folks will have different needs. So I don't want to be prescriptive. We don't want to be prescriptive and say, you're going to do this program if that doesn't make sense for people living 100 miles away from, here, right? So, but yeah, the benefits are centralized, but programming, we can always give, we have universal communications, newsletters that go out to everybody, right? So everybody understands that we're all on the same page with benefits and all those pieces. However, individual programming is left up. It's autonomous, right? They can do that all on their own.
That's great. It's, really meeting the need of the individual where they are and what's going on. So that's very important. And sometimes we do see the centralized, like, hey, everybody's doing the same thing. And it, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But I think that model of, again, the diversity you have across these regional campuses, allowing that is a really critical thing, probably helps with the retention.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we have really solid retention numbers amongst our military connected population. And I mean, that's our military connected includes dependents, and those folks that can have a pretty solid, non-traditional students have a different retention rate, as we all know, than kids coming right out of high school, going to the residence halls for 4 years and hanging out. Different retention rate.
My kind of people.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, Dr. Hira, you alluded to the Veterans Center when we first started the episode. So, Joshua, can you tell us about that resource there on campus and what that looks like? Is it, being a department that is not just military, also the adults and that type of thing? So, is it like a universal center? Is it special for veterans? How's that whole thing work?
It's definitely a universal center. And the reason that works out so well, it's really kind of, it does everything, right? So we process benefits in-house. We do programs, initiatives, events, and services in-house. And then there's so many synergies between those populations.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a veteran is by definition an adult and many times a parent.
Mm-hmm.
And so that kind of whole notion of intersectional identities across those populations, that's buzzword. That's the center square and buzzword bingo for higher ed right there. But like, that's one of them. That's a free one for everyone. But like that, no, that's those folks, it works. It's not really as separate as one might think when you listen to it. They're all commuters by definition, right? Our veterans don't live on campus. We don't have family housing. So that's one thing. It's a commuter-based population that is an adult and many times a parent. So there's cross-pollination amongst those services. So a lot of our work, frankly, is geared towards, of course, compliance, right? The heavy compliance and audit loads and certification. So the V is a bit bigger than the A in CAVS. It's like maybe it's lowercase a, but we also, center around our parenting students as well, which sweeps the veteran community up in there, provide programs and services for families to show up at. We find that to be very helpful. We have VA members that come on campus and provide, we had Vet Center coming to campus. We had VA doing some satellite counseling or satellite resources on campus. Again, we don't provide direct counseling. That's obviously our partners externally. Yeah. So we connect people directly and have a very close partnership with student accessibility services.
Yeah.
As you know, there's a lot of visible and invisible wounds that happen there. We want to make sure that folks are connected to those services and, make sure they're not missing out on the things that the traditional students are hearing in the residence halls. Yeah. And for the traditional students, even for the traditional students, the family members, we have different newsletters that target them as well.
That's outstanding.
It is. And, again, I think that's that piece where that intersectionality, yes, buzzword of higher ed. But it's so critical to again, think about what are the other pieces that the veterans bringing to campus. And that family aspect is a huge one. And so where that is that integration, it's community building beyond just a military community. These students are then getting that exposure to other people in their community. Maybe their kids are going to the same school. It just creates, again, this new bonding that is very similar to what we would have on a military base, and how you connect and find people. So that's a wonderful aspect of that. I think it's a piece that I see actually often overlooked in other places, because again, that family aspect's like, oh yeah, it's there, we know. But to have that opportunity to really support the adult learner and what that adult learner looks as a whole is very different. So I was very impressed with the center when I saw it way back when.
Thank you.
And again, I got to meet some of your disability accessibility staff members who were phenomenal. And it was clear to see that there was that connection of, again, that holistic support of, hey, we want to make sure you have access to whatever it is you need. And if you don't even know what that is, we'll help you figure that out. So
right. Oh, absolutely. And often folks don't, right? You come back to college and you don't know what you don't know, and you don't know what you need, or maybe you had left high school with an IEP and that was 15 years ago.
Yep.
Well, that you probably still need some, bet you still need some accommodations, and we want to be there to holistically support that population. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I love the family thing though, man, that I just really love that, because, a lot of veterans are in the same boat I am after, a career. You're like, man, I owe my family a lot. They sacrifice a lot for my career, and, being able to get them involved in your schooling and things like that. That's just phenomenal. And who knows, are you creating legacies of generational students, it's I love it.
Yeah.
Wow. Good stuff. I love these things. I get so excited talking to campuses. I love learning about what's out there.
We got to take this show on the road.
I'm really waiting for the tour bus, and we get to hit up all these campuses.
Do it live on campus.
I love it. Yeah.
Just as we kind of get ready to close out, one last kind of question. Obviously your family has been choosing Kent State again and again for, I'm sure, very different reasons, right?
Absolutely.
If somebody's considering the campus, what do you think, why might they or should they choose Kent State?
Yeah, there's a variety of offerings here for, again, I'll say military connected. I'm going to go big picture, where we started out as a teacher's college, right? So if education is your thing, then we have a fantastic College of Education, Health, and Human Services, right? That has, for the K-12 world and beyond. We have a fashion design program that is top in the country. We have an airport. So if you're a veteran and maybe you're looking to come back and do flight, we have our own airport. We do aeronautics programs there that are obviously covered through benefits, right?
Yeah.
There's a number of things that students to connect with, even if that's not military related, right? There's D1 athletics, there's 350 campus organizations, there's fraternity and sorority life, which veterans do engage and with which they do engage. Absolutely. So looking for that camaraderie, right? That they had, and then looking to build that again when they return to college. So those are kind of some of the pieces. Beautiful suburban setting, very diverse campus, very an international student focus, a non-traditional student focus. So it's a great place to go. It really is. And folks have chosen this for many years to come here from around the world. We have folks from over 100 countries that are here at any point in time.
Wonderful. Well, it's been great to reconnect with Kent, and thank you, Joshua, for joining us today on the Vet SOS podcast. On behalf of the Vet SOS family, we'd like to thank everyone for tuning in. You can find Vet SOS podcast on all your favorite podcast platforms, as well as YouTube and all the social media platforms. Make sure you subscribe and follow us so you don't miss a thing. Remember, don't drown in the sea of transition. Grab the Vet SOS Lifeline.